The Vanishing of the Coleman Brothers. If you drive deep enough into the Sierra Verde range, past the ranger stations, past the paved roads, past the areas where tourists still smile with their phones out, you reach a place locals call the Ridge of Echoes, a place where GPS signals die, legends multiply, and missing person posters fade before anyone even sees them. For the residents of northern Arizona, the mountains are familiar, predictable, safe. But in October of 2015, those mountains consumed two brothers, Daniel and Aaron Coleman, and did not return them. Not until 5 years later, when one of them stumbled out of the wilderness barefoot, skeletal, and whispering a truth so horrifying that detectives could barely write it down. This is the story of how two ordinary men vanished, and how one returned with secrets so dark they twisted the investigation forever. Sunday, October 18th, 2015, began like every other opening weekend of elk season for the Coleman brothers. Daniel Coleman, 39, a contractor from Phoenix who always had dust on his jeans and kindness in his eyes, was packing gear into his old Dodge Ram. His younger brother, Aaron, 34, a former high school football star turned HVAC technician, checked their rifles for the 5th time, the way he always did. For them, hunting wasn't a hobby. It was inheritance, handed down from a father who taught them the woods before he taught them multiplication. Daniel had a wife, Emily, a nurse who hated hunting season but loved how it made her husband glow. They'd tried for kids for years, without luck. Aaron lived alone, quiet, private, recovering from a harsh breakup that hollowed him out more than he admitted. By 6:45 a.m. they were on the road, headed north toward the Sierra Verde range, a 5-hour drive through rusty desert, silent pines, and finally, the steep mountains where they camped every year. The last confirmed sighting was a gas station in Marston, Arizona, population 1,200. The store clerk remembered them because they bought more batteries and propane than usual, and because Aaron tipped her, even though he only bought gum. Nothing about them suggested the world was about to lose them. Nothing suggested a nightmare was waiting for them in the trees. When Daniel didn't text his wife Monday night, Emily assumed he was just in a no-signal pocket. When he didn't return Tuesday morning for work, she called Aaron's boss, who said Aaron hadn't shown up either. By Tuesday night, she contacted police. By Wednesday at dawn, deputies from Crescent County Sheriff's Office were on the mountain trail, accompanied by volunteers, dogs, and worried locals. A mile from the brothers' usual campsite, deputies found Daniel's truck, doors locked, keys on the seat, nothing taken, supplies untouched, rifles stored safely. It looked as if the men had simply stepped away for a moment. Search teams found their campsite half a mile deeper, neat, organized, and cold. No overturned chairs, no signs of a struggle, no scattered equipment, just absence. The forest held its breath and gave nothing back. Search dogs picked up a scent, but lost it on a rocky hillside. Helicopters scanned ravines. Rangers combed abandoned hunting cabins. After 3 weeks, the search was suspended. Winter swallowed the mountains. The Coleman brothers were gone. Years passed. The Coleman family grieved in slow motion. Emily remarried after 2 years. Though guilt clung to her like a shadow, the brothers' mother refused to pack away her son's belongings. Their father stopped joining family dinners altogether. Theories circled endlessly. Wild animals, foul play, an accidental fall, a wrong turn into deep terrain. A cult rumored to live off-grid in the Verde Range. But no theory had evidence, and no evidence ever surfaced. The case went cold, another file in a drawer of unanswered disappearances, until March 9th, 2020, when a man walked into the sheriff's office in the small town of Larkspur and changed everything. Deputy Alicia Monroe was the first to see him. A man in a torn jacket, bare feet, and hair matted with leaves. He looked half feral, half starved, barely human. His cheekbones protruded like blades. His hands trembled uncontrollably. His eyes darted toward every sound, as if expecting an attack. His voice cracked when he said, "My name is Daniel Coleman. I've been gone for 5 years." At first, Deputy Monroe assumed he was delusional. Many drifters claim to be missing persons. But then he recited the exact coordinates of his and Aaron's final campsite, descriptions of family members, details from their childhood no stranger would know, the name of his childhood dog who died in 1998. This was Daniel, a destroyed, traumatized version of him, but him. Medical staff documented severe malnutrition, scars across his back, chest, and legs, burn marks, rope abrasions, several healed fractures, a level of psychological trauma consistent with long-term captivity. For 2 days he barely spoke. On day 3, he began to talk, and what he revealed reshaped the entire case. Daniel and Aaron had set up camp like they always did. They made a fire, ate chili from cans, joked about childhood memories. Around 11 p.m., they went to sleep. Daniel woke to the sound of crunching leaves, then saw a stranger's silhouette holding a lantern. The last ordinary image before hell opened. Black bags over their heads, hands tied behind their backs, dragged for hours across rocks and streams. When bags were removed, they were inside a deep earthen pit, 6 feet down, covered by planks. They weren't alone. 2 other prisoners already sat inside. One was barely conscious. The other stared blankly at nothing, lips cracked and bleeding. Daniel soon learned why. Their captors weren't exactly a cult, at least not in the traditional sense. They were a wilderness purity order, a self-isolated off-grid group that believed modern society corrupted the spirit. Their leader, who called himself the Warden, preached that the wilderness revealed a person's true worth through pain, starvation, and endurance. They survived through hunting, foraging, theft from cabins, violence against outsiders, ritualistic purification tests. Captives like Daniel and Aaron were considered the unclean, people who must be broken down to their original spirit. Members wore animal skin masks during rituals, painted with ash and blood. They forbade speaking real names. They lived 15-20 miles off any trail, accessible only through narrow animal paths. The pit was their holding cell. Daniel described daily torment, starvation broken only by scraps of raw meat, forced exposure to freezing rain, being made to kneel on stones for hours, carving symbols into their skin under threat of death, watching rituals involving fire, chanting, and violent purification rites. Aaron, always the fighter, resisted. He refused to kneel, refused to chant, refused to break. The Warden singled him out early. A few months later, Aaron attempted escape, beating 2 guards with a rock, running barefoot through the forest. He was caught the next day. What followed was something Daniel could barely speak about. Aaron was executed as an example. The group stoned him while chanting in a circle. Daniel's voice cracked, recounting it. He wept until he nearly collapsed. The Warden ordered Daniel to participate, holding a stone in his hand. But Daniel couldn't throw it. Someone else delivered the final blow. Aaron's body was taken to a bog, to return to the earth. Daniel broke that day, but in a different direction. He became obedient, quiet, a shadow. He did everything necessary to stay alive. For the next 3 years, Daniel was treated as a broken thing, barely noticed, which kept him safe. Eventually, he was forced to join on foraging trips, to carry meat, haul wood, clean tools. He waited, watched, learned their patterns, studied when guards grew complacent, memorized which direction the sun set beyond the ridge. He wasn't trying to live. He was trying to outlast. In February 2020, during a winter hunt, a wild hog turned on one of the group members, goring him and causing chaos. For the first time in years, no one was watching Daniel. He ran, barefoot, starving, half frozen. He hid under bushes when footsteps neared. He drank melted snow. He followed the stars. On the third night, he heard a distant road. On the fourth, he found an old ranger service track. A logging truck driver found him staggering near the roadside and gave him food and a blanket. But Daniel panicked and fled, convinced the warden would find him. For weeks, he lived in abandoned shacks, eating scraps. Only later, when he realized he wasn't being hunted, did he turn himself in. Once Daniel provided investigators with loose directions, a massive search began. 40 officers, rangers, drones, tracking dogs, volunteers. It took 18 days to find the first sign. A handmade perimeter alarm using tin cans. A mile deeper, they found the camp. Primitive shelters, animal skin masks nailed to trees, fire pits with charred bones, ritual circles made of stones. And finally, the pit, half filled with leaves, but unmistakably real. Detectives recovered shreds of clothing, a rusted pocket knife belonging to Aaron, human bone fragments, a broken leather cord Aaron's ex-girlfriend had made for him. A week later, in the marsh Daniel described, they found Aaron's remains buried deep in wet soil. Official analysis confirmed he died from blunt force trauma consistent with Daniel's account. Tracking the group members took months. They'd scattered like rats when Daniel escaped. Arrests occurred in Kingfisher, AZ. A man attempting to steal canned food. Pine Brook Tavern. A woman using a fake ID while working as a cleaner. An abandoned mine in New Mexico, where the warden himself hid, emaciated, living off rodents. His real name, Elias Rayner, 52, former military, dishonorably discharged. 2 assault convictions. His journals revealed meticulous planning of purification, cycles, and a blueprint for expanding his wilderness order. Held in late 2021, the trial gripped the nation. Daniel testified for 6 hours, crying repeatedly. Medical experts corroborated his trauma. Evidence from the camp matched his story. The defense attempted insanity pleas, but psychological evaluations showed they fully understood their actions. Verdicts: Elias Rayner, the warden, life without parole. 2 accomplices, 30 years each. Daniel tried to rebuild his life, but civilization felt alien. He moved to a small farming town in Colorado, worked with animals, spoke little, saw a therapist twice weekly. Emily attended the trial but did not reconcile with him. Too much time, too much hurt. The Coleman family held a funeral for Aaron with Daniel present, a thin, fragile ghost beside the casket. Authorities increased patrols in remote forests nationwide, updating missing person protocols. But Daniel's story leaves haunting questions. How many others vanished in wilderness corners no one ever searched? How many camps like Rayner's exist, unseen? And most chillingly, would anyone have ever found the Coleman brothers if Daniel hadn't survived?